Hello everyone, my name's Chris Sanderson. I'm co-founder of the Future Laboratory and I'm delighted to be hosting this live stream in conversation with Beauty Pie founder Marcia Kilgore.
Hey Chris.
Nice
Thanks
to
for
be with
having
you.
me.
No, it's great. I'm really looking forward to this. Now, Marcia is known as one of the beauty sector's most prolific and successful serial entrepreneurs and pioneers. And she has a passion for making beauty more relevant, fairer, and more accessible. She recently told us for the report, why perpetuate the myth that people want to buy into the mystique of beauty with smoke and mirrors rather than glorious revelations of the ingredients, technology, and artistry? Why is it all right still to be paying crazy retailer markups and not even know that the stuff you're actually paying for might only cost 1/10 of the final price to make and manufacture? Now, over the next few years, as our report shows, the beauty industry will undergo a fundamental transformation as consumers demand fairer pricing, greater product efficacy, and more open and honest business models than ever before. The Beauty Futures 2025 Beauty, Beautility and the Rise of the Question Everything Economy report, released today in a partnership between Beauty Pie and the Future Laboratory, shines a light on this shift, revealing the hyper-savvy, hyper-knowledgeable consumer that now makes up the industry and the innovative ways that brands are transforming to meet their new needs. Now, the industry is in a state of flux. Post-pandemic aftershocks, the Ukraine conflict, and ensuing supply chain impacts are leaving beauty producers with unprecedented inflationary pressures. Consumers, too, are reaching their own economic boiling point as the cost of living crisis shifts purchasing patterns and creates new consumer behaviours centred on trust, quality, and value. So to meet these new needs, innovative brands are unlocking a future of radical fairness, solidifying human-first values in the beauty lexicon. This future will welcome a new era of openness, honesty, and accountability around everything from pricing and product ingredients to supply chains and sustainability. Now, the impacts of these shifts will be truly disruptive, fostering fresh understanding, trust, and positive sentiment between brands and their consumers. Here, consumers are fairly treated with high quality and fair value, while brands are rewarded in the genuine retention of a loyal community. Well, that's a quick overview of the report we'll be sending you shortly. Before we get going, I just want to remind you all that we're taking questions via the Q&A function on your screen, and we'll be answering as many as we can get through at the end of this session. Well, to help me discuss the findings of this report and to share with us the story of Beauty Pie, I'm delighted to welcome its founder, Marcia Kilgore. Marcia, hello, welcome.
Thank you so much, Chris. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this too. It's a great report, I think. We've got some amazing insights in it. And I think what's fascinating for me is that it reveals some really interesting insights on how the current market and the social tensions that we're all experiencing right now are creating what you could call a perfect storm for a wonderful expression that you actually shared with us, radical fairness.
Yes.
And I'm interested to hear from you, what impact do you think this concept of radical fairness is going to have, both for Beauty Pie as a business, but also for the industry as a whole?
You know, I think that at some point, consumers reach what you termed a boiling point.
Yeah.
And there's so many different pressures that everyone is undergoing at the moment, whether it is ecological pressures, economic pressures, and social pressures. And one of the things that we identified at Beauty Pie some years ago was that it was an industry that hadn't really been overhauled in many years. Mm. And with the incoming internet revolution, where you could talk directly to customers and you could reach your target market, for instance, really very clearly and with individual messaging that was relevant to them, it was amazing that nothing had changed in the pricing structure of the beauty industry, where you will still go through several layers of distribution, all of which add price and cost into a product's end consumer price point, and nothing had been done necessarily to improve that particular experience for a customer. However, there were so many better experiences to be had by directly communicating with customers online about the benefits and the quality of products.
Okay, you've kind of gone through so much there that I want to sort of break some of that down, because I think there are some really interesting topics that you and I can discuss within that. I really do want to talk about this idea of radical fairness, of fair pricing. Sourcing is a conversation that often isn't had because there seems to be so much mystique and smoke and mirrors, as you said to us before, within this concept of actually who's making it and what are they making, and therefore how much is being charged for that. But you also touched, I think, really interestingly on this idea of being able to address the customer in a way that's individual and almost on a one-to-one basis. And surely that's one of the great secrets of what DTC has delivered. And maybe we'll come back to that. Let's start with talking a little bit more about this idea of fair pricing and product sourcing. Now, share with us just a little bit more about that journey you took when you started the business back in 2016, about what really fired you up about this idea of delivering fair pricing and recognizing fair sourcing.
Sure, that's a fantastic question. You know, for many years I've been in the beauty industry and I have been complicit. So I will, mea culpa, I was part of it. Probably 1993, I started to sell my own products, which were made by third-party labs, as many of the products, and probably the majority of the products in the industry are. So you go to different manufacturers. There are many leading manufacturers in the world. Many of them for cosmetics are in Italy, for skincare are in Switzerland, many great skincare labs in Japan, in South Korea, many in America. And any brand can actually go to these labs and you work with them, and they are the experts in producing pretty much turnkey products.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you there, because in the report we cite and sourced from Jungle Scout and Fashion Edits that 15 leading beauty brands, luxury and drugstore alike, source products from the same 3 manufacturers.
Chris, I would say probably 100 different, 100 different leading beauty brands will source product from, I can name 3 manufacturers that are working for 100 different brands. And we particularly at Beauty Pie, we actually work with probably 35 to 50 different labs around the world. We have the best lipstick maker. We have the best skincare. Well, there are several, right? So there are a lot of, and it's good to have that competition even between them, but we source fantastic skincare from labs in Switzerland, from labs in Japan, from labs in Korea and America. And they are the experts. Yeah. And they will make either to your specification, or you can choose things that are off the shelf. Generally with skincare, we specify exactly what we want because we want a very high quality, very efficacious product. With makeup, we may take someone's best-selling item, so someone's best-selling eyeshadow texture, for instance, and then we will choose the colors that we put that eyeshadow texture in, but we will sell exactly the same product at Beauty Pie that you might find in one of the leading premium department stores under 4 or 5 other brands.
Where I may be paying up to 10 times the price for it.
Yes, so normally in the industry, the cost of goods target, and that's in the mass industry, will be 8% of the retail price, which I think is quite egregious considering that those prices don't come down. If you buy that same product at a department store or on the internet, it's not that the internet's price is 50% less. You're still paying the retail markup even though you're buying it from a website, because you have to have price parity across all of your distribution points if you're a brand. So customers are paying for a retail experience that they might not be having even when they're buying the same brand online.
Which is, of course, really why DTC brands came about in the first place. And as I said, you launched Beauty Pie in 2016, and that feels for me like that was really early days for the growth of the DTC phenomenon for us consumers. You know, in terms of suddenly this ability to talk direct, to avoid the conversation with a middleman. But just to go back to the conversation around sourcing, obviously because of your background in beauty, you'd founded previous beauty brands. So you had this knowledge of who were the best people to go to.
I had the Rolodex.
But so tell us a little bit, when did you get the idea that was there an aha moment when you kind of thought, why don't I just do this in a different way?
Absolutely. So I've had a few aha moments along the way. One was having actually a very frank conversation with one of those suppliers who was really the world's leading supplier of makeup. And I talked to them when they had tried to go public. and had failed to go public because no bank would underwrite their valuation at the same time. And they were literally, if they shut down, the entire beauty industry would shut down. And their valuation at that time was half of that of a blogger who had launched a set of products that she was shipping out to a few thousand people.
Right.
And I thought, okay, wait a second. There's something wrong with the dynamic in the industry when the manufacturer who's been around for decades, who supplies every single brand that we all know and love, from mass to luxury and extreme luxury, can't actually get floated on the stock market for a decent price when, if they did shut down, nobody would exist, the entire industry would shut down. And I thought there's got to be a recalibration there.
Right.
These people are the people who know how to make that product, know how to make it into magic. They know how to create the textures, to bring new trends in. They give you almost a finished product. You stamp your brand on it. You decide what color it is. They put it into a box and ship it to you. And then from the time it hits your warehouse to where it goes into a retailer, it is at least 12 times more expensive for the customer. And that, to me, didn't make sense anymore.
But when you started those conversations with the manufacturers, did you get some opposition from them that actually they were kind of comfortable in the status quo or how it worked?
Chris, we didn't tell them.
You didn't?
We didn't.
Okay.
We couldn't. I just thought, you know what, this is such a disruptive idea, and it is terrifying. And I've always thought, you know, when I come up with an idea that's a bit terrifying, that's a really great idea.
Yeah.
And I knew it would be probably terrifying to some of those manufacturers because they do business with a lot of different brands.
Yeah, and this is upsetting the equilibrium.
Very disruptive to actually lay bare, here's what the pricing looks like in the beauty industry, right? And so we waited and we placed large orders with these manufacturers. And we built our website and we told nobody. And then I went in the day before we were launched, basically about fabulous Vogue article.
Okay.
And I told them what was about to happen. And I have to say, it was a wonderful experience. I did talk them through my rationale for this is the way the world is moving.
Yeah.
You see so many brands starting to sell direct. You see video, right? Online video where you can talk to your customers about the products that you're selling. Everybody is their own QVC now, right? People are their own brands.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that really drove me to think, you know, people don't need brands anymore. They need great products. They need fair prices. They need to be getting value for their money. And they need brands that they can trust to deliver something that is a fair price, that they think, you know what, this is incredible. I'm going to go back and buy it over and over again. Because if you don't deliver that, the only people who are making money are Google and Facebook. And we know that they make enough.
Well, this is true. And I think what you've touched on there as well, which as I said, I really wanted us to look at, was this relationship that you seem to have with the customer, which seems to be driven by your passion, both for the product, but also I think I feel the psyche of your customer, that you feel that you're really close to your customer. And so this sense for me of beginning to understand as part of the history, how you've kind of gone through this journey by creating the brand to be so closely aligned to the customer, I think is really fascinating, because that goes to the heart of DTC. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. You know what? I think it's really simple. I always create brands that I will want to buy myself.
Yeah.
So number one, I'm
works,
my own customer.
Yeah.
And in fact, I have a paying Beauty Pie membership, and I order my products like everybody else. And so it keeps me very, very real, and it keeps me on my toes. If I wouldn't buy a particular product, we're not going to sell it.
No.
I test every single thing that we put out there, and if it is something that I don't think is great value and respects her pocketbook or his pocketbook, we're not launching it.
So do you think that now your manufacturers actually see you as almost like the litmus test for what they will be manufacturing for other businesses in the future?
It's quite interesting. I think we started out by going to them and saying, okay, we started with makeup. And the idea was all your makeup without the markups. And then we quickly realized that, you know, people also need skincare. And in fact, my expertise is skincare because I've been in that industry for such a long time. So we started then to reach out to my favorite skincare labs. And at first we thought, well, let's find out what their best performing formulas are. Because if they're getting reorders from other brands for these formulations, they must be great formulations. And then we started to realize that, in fact, we wanted to raise the bar even higher, especially with skincare. With makeup, you can have a fantastic moisturizing lipstick that has great wear and great color. It's not, there are several of those, and they will be slightly pricier than the things that are less expensive. But with skincare, what was not so easy to find was an off-the-shelf formula from a lab that actually had a high enough level of active ingredients in it that would be efficacious and actually cause a change to someone's skin and cause that positive, visible benefit. As we know, so many brands will put very tiny amounts, claim ingredients into their formulations. We didn't want to do that. We wanted things that would just knock our customers' socks off. So I went to my favorite skincare labs, and we worked from scratch on formulations that had synergistic ingredients at high enough levels that you would really, really see a difference in your skin after using them for 28 days, 56 days, that skin cycle.
And so has that built a retention amongst your community?
Yes, Chris, our retention is off the charts. And I say retention is the new black, right?
Okay.
When we looked at data for D2C businesses, many of them would lose 90% of their customers every year.
Yeah, you kind of sign up and you join it, and then it's like,
I've got enough. I've had this box 3 times. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And seeing that, I thought, well, that for me, customers coming back because they love the product, they trust what we're delivering for them, and they feel like they're being respected is number one. It's paramount for me. And so I wanted to start something where people felt like what they were paying for was backdoor access. It was insider access. They were paying to be smart, right? They were paying to get in the back door of those labs. And of course, it's actually in the back door of our factory because we bring all of the products from the labs to warehouses where people can order everything rather than ordering individually from labs all over the world, which wouldn't be sustainable or ecologically conscious, of course. And he, or they. Pay to have that access to not have to pay the egregious markups that they would experience were they to go to a retailer. Well,
this is really interesting. This kind of takes us back, I think, to talking about the report, because it goes on, in the report we identify a number of kind of key trends that we think are going to define the industry in 2025. And I'd like to just focus on one, because I'm aware of time, which we've called Beauty Recoded.
Yes.
And this is where we look at that idea that future-facing brands, I'm reading some of the content here, are ripping up the beauty business rulebook to deliver meaningful beauty for all, transforming the beauty landscape. Are you going to continue to have a mindset of disruption? Is that the idea? Do you think this is about a continuous process of disruption?
Sure, absolutely. It is so important with any business to stay relevant. Change is happening at an incredible pace. We have to jump into change rather than avoiding it. And I think that one of the things, when we talk about recoding beauty, we think of our customers actually as our algorithm at Beauty Pie.
Right.
She is voting with her wallet. He is voting with his wallet. We often will do a poll online and ask people, should we order this color, this, or that? And then our customers, our members, will vote, and they will tell us what they want, and we'll bring it in, and it will be successful. And there's no better interface than direct with your customer when asking them what they want. We will also sometimes say, hey, we're interested in this product. Here's what the price will be. Are you interested? And if we don't get above 70% yes, then we will reconsider whether we're going to launch that product. And what happens then is that we'd never have a dog. Usually with beauty companies, you'll launch, 10 products and 3 of them will be dogs.
Just fail,
But we can get that instant feedback from our customer base about whether they're excited.
I mean, it works on the premise when you're prepared to be more collaborative, doesn't it? Which is the relationship you have with your customer changes. And I think, for me, certainly that's one of the most exciting things about the change that we're seeing in business, which is this far more collaborative approach to how we talk to the consumer, the customer, and also learn from them as well. Now, I've got one last question for you from me before we open this up to the floor. And I wondered if we could maybe cast our eyes maybe even a little bit further forward than the report, which goes to sort of 2025. And without maybe giving too much away of what you're up to, what is it that you're looking at in this idea of the far future? What are some of the areas of interest that you've got that you think we should all be maybe paying a little bit of attention to?
Chris, I think there are three. I think transdermals are really, really interesting.
Yeah, okay.
And whether or not those will be allowed in the beauty industry as such, there will be different regulations that obviously control them. Whether or not we think of things that pass through the skin as drugs or not will be something that'll be very interesting to watch. Number two, I think, is 360-degree wellness or 360-degree beauty.
A more holistic approach to how we think about things.
And not in a woo-woo way, right?
Okay.
But so many people think of beauty as being healthy, being positive, being happy, right? When you meet someone who's radiating with confidence and happiness, they're beautiful.
Yes.
And it's not down to the symmetry of their face or the color of their eyes. It's down to the energy that they give off.
Yeah.
And there's so many different ways to work on that. And I think we'd like to be able to share more of that with our members and with everyone, really. We don't really want to just stop at people who want to be members. And then the last, I guess, is a little bit more functional, which is sourcing as a service, thinking about different labs as their own brands. So we take it down from brands used to deliver to department stores, but now labs can deliver to Beauty Pie.
Yeah, I'd love that. Sourcing as a service.
Yeah.
That's great, because again, it's collapsing those traditional hierarchies that we see that have defined business for so long, and
They're
really
irrelevant, really.
No.
Yeah, they're, in so many ways, they're irrelevant. You don't need that one extra giant step.
Yeah.
I always say that people still want a little bit of magic, right? It's not all about logic. So just going in and saying this is less expensive, that's not enough. She still, and he still, and they still want the fairy tale. So we have to make sure that we're creating products that are gorgeous and desirable and really work and efficacious and look beautiful in their bathroom and all of that. But at the same time, we have to be mindful of the environment. We have to bring them the best possible value. We have to also make sure that we're massaging everyone's ego, because beauty products also,
Of course, it's still an aspirational as well as functional business that we're in.
All of those things. So we're trying to do our very best and trying to improve every day, but it's all about bringing her, him, them, a bigger piece of the beauty pie.
Oh, this is absolutely fascinating. I could just talk to you all afternoon, but I think we need to open up the floor and share some of this conversation with all of you who are watching online. So I'm very quickly going to switch my screens, and I'm going to bring up I've got some live questions coming in, thanks to the wonder of technology. So thank you all, those of you that, we've got quite a few here that have been coming in. Thank you very much for your questions. The first we've got, which I'm going to ask, this has come in anonymously. Maybe you're feeling a little nervous about putting your name to things, but come on, guys. Come on, folk, I should say rather. Please put your names to some of these. But this is your first question, Marcia. What was the catalyst that inspired Beauty Pie to break away from the traditional beauty industry in the first place? I guess we've kind of answered that, but is there anything else that you feel you can add to that?
In a nutshell, Chris and Anonymous, I was in the Hong Kong airport. I also have a footwear brand.
Yes,
and I was FitFlop, yes.
Yeah.
And I was heading to Dongguan at the time, Shenzhen, to work on a collection. It was in the fall season. It was quite cold, and they actually don't heat factories or hotels until it gets even colder.
Right.
I had forgotten a facial moisturizer, and it had been many years since I had to buy my own facial moisturizer because, of course, I'd always owned a beauty brand. So I would always get samples from labs, and I'd be using whatever had come in.
Yeah.
But I had sold my last business, which was Soap & Glory, and I had no samples from labs, and I had forgotten to bring a moisturizer. Yeah. So I'm in the duty-free of the airport, and I saw a brand that I know and trust. I had many friends who'd worked for them. It was an Asian brand, and I just made a beeline over to a shelf and went to pick up a jar of moisturizer, and it was $150 equivalent. And I thought, oh, forget it.
I'm not paying that.
I'm not paying this. And I could pay it, right? I'm like in the lucky position. I've had a few successful businesses where I could afford that, but I just couldn't bring myself to. And I remember thinking, if I'm not willing to pay this,
yes,
and I know this is going to probably cost $5 to make, why should anyone be paying these crazy markups for what? And so I think that was the first little point that set the chain in motion. Yeah. There were several others.
I'm sure. I love those moments where it really is. It's the confrontation of a situation that you kind of go, this is ludicrous, this is ridiculous, this is insane.
You take away your privileges. You become a civilian who is then a typical customer, and then realize what their experience is like. And sometimes we're shielded from that in our industry. So I think it was it was a great moment.
Oh, good. I like that. Thank you for that question. Well, here's our second one. This is from Lisa Payne at Stylist. Hello, Lisa. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. And Lisa wants to know, Beauty Pie's model, she says, is very unique. How does Marcia think regular brands, mass or luxury, can provide value to customers while navigating material cost increases? Right. So we're all obviously living through a period where costs seem to change on a daily basis. How do you cope with that?
So I think from a brand perspective, any brand should be just respecting everything of their customers. So whether it's their customers' time, right, their customers' money, their customers' energy, that should be respected in any interface. You fight for the best price while providing the most education, while respecting her intelligence, and just giving a fully respectful interface and experience with your brand. Certainly, prices are going up. I mean, this is one of the things that we have always worked with at Beauty Pie is eliminating all of those markups so that if prices do go up, you're still getting a screaming deal on whatever it is that you're shopping for. I know it's really difficult at this time for a lot of brands who aren't necessarily built on a business model like ours, but if you can provide real value for your customer, and she loves the energy that you are delivering as well as the product, making sure that that product is of the highest quality.
Yeah.
It is all about quality and value.
Can I slip in a quick question, a cheeky question on that?
By all means.
Dynamic pricing, yes or no?
We have it at the moment.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
I should know that, shouldn't I? Sorry.
Oh, no. We have it at the moment.
Okay.
It is a bit of a nightmare, though.
Yeah.
Just because things change and something will go down by 3 cents. And in fact, customers used to ask, why did that go down by 3 cents? Why did that go up by 17 cents?
Right.
And we realized, in fact, that it might be something that we let go of simply because we would spend 9 man-hours explaining 3 cents of dynamic pricing. And so it might not be something that's sustainable. But, we leapt into the unknown when we started Beauty Pie. It was something so very different. We kind of thought that certain things would be really important. Some things have ended up being more important than others. And so, of course, we will modify as we go along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. We've got another question. This is from Claire Coleman. Hello, Claire. She says, hello both. This has been fascinating.
Hello,
Good.
Claire.
Hello. I have many questions, but this is one. There's been a lot of chat about personalization in beauty. We kind of mentioned that at the start. Is this something that you see as a big trend going forward? And if so, how does that tally with the savings you can offer consumers through mass purchase? So that's a great question. So really going to the heart of this idea of moving from mass models, where obviously you're producing at scale, to this idea of maybe satisfying the needs of ever smaller groups of consumers who want real particularity in colour, in manufacture, in all the sorts of elements that you could deliver. How do you navigate your way through that one?
Claire always has the best questions. I actually think that if you want something very, very specific, like with any industry, it is going to be more expensive.
Yeah.
I would also humbly say that if you are receiving a formulation from a world-class skincare chemist, it is likely or possibly better than what you might be able to mix up and choose yourself online.
Yep.
So it is...
Trust the experts.
Sometimes we do want to trust those experts who have 30 years of experience combining different ingredients. And so mixing up something as well that has been then, the combination of ingredients has been safety tested and efficacy tested on a large pool of people before you put it on your own face.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure how with skincare and with those ingredients, there are regulations around how much testing you have to do before you release it. So I'm not particularly myself in understanding of how you can just mix something up and send it out legally. That's something I'd have to do a little bit more research on.
It moves you into a completely different category. But do you think, maybe if we assess that question slightly in a slightly broader way, do you believe that for you a successful business model is going to be one where perhaps rather than having thousands of SKUs, it's hundreds or it's even tens? Is there an opportunity to be viable on those kind of smaller scales of production?
I think so. I think customers always want newness, right? So you always have to have a certain critical mass of products that are interesting.
Yeah.
But if you do, there will be a minimum order quantity where you kind of hit a number where that cost really comes down.
Okay.
And above that, it's not material. So it might be 20,000 units, and then the cost comes down quite dramatically when you hit that, but at 25, it's not that much.
It doesn't make a difference.
Right?
Yeah, okay.
Now, what we tend to do at Beauty Pie, and what we're really working on, is more personalization through skincare quizzes, through you entering your information, your needs, and your concerns on our site, and we can then recommend a routine that is a mixture of the different items that we have that are all very efficacious themselves.
Okay.
But individual products, I think, are very, very hard to do at any kind of cost reduction.
Okay, well, let's move on. We've had another question come in. This is from Kathleen, who is a contributing beauty editor at Vogue. I'm going to assume British Vogue, but it could be US Vogue, because we have members of the media.
I think I know Kathleen, too.
Oh, you know Kathleen?
I think I do.
Okay, great.
Hey, Kathleen.
So Kathleen's question is, what are you seeing in terms of sustainability in the factories that you work with that you would like to bring to Beauty Pie? Great question. Thank you, Kathleen. So,
every product we look at
are
from
things
a
getting better?
sustainability perspective.
Yeah, are things getting better?
Yes, it's really from packaging. So packaging manufacturers are really the ones who are leading the way in sustainability.
Right.
The biggest issue that we have is really packaging and whether or not it can be recycled. We have always, from the very genesis of Beauty Pie, looked at which kind of packaging can we use that will be more sustainable and causes less waste. There will always be some. Recently, in fact, last weekend, we launched our very first, what we call our Keep This makeup case. So we have a bronzer case, so a powder case, which you keep and you just pop out, and it is a magnetic, compact fixture. And now we've just launched our very first, same thing for lipstick, where you pop in refill bullets, and all you do is remove. And those things are becoming more, I guess, broadly available from different packaging suppliers, but it has been a battle, and it's not easy. To create packaging normally, and in the old world, right, you might have one package that would be made with metal and 6 different types of plastic, and therefore, but they're all glued together.
Yeah.
So to recycle something like that is impossible. So now packaging manufacturers starting engineering from the ground up, being able to split out those non-recyclable parts and the recyclable parts so that less is thrown away. Yeah, with each product.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, keep those questions coming in. I think we've got time for just a couple more. I've got another anonymous one for you here. Is the change in the beauty industry that you've talked about and the new demand for what you call radical fairness really for good?
Chris, I think anything that's better for the customer is for good. When there's competition, when people are asking questions, when people are demanding more, it makes everyone in the industry raise their game. If you are constantly being asked by your consumers, what are you doing about the ecology of your packaging, you're going to look into that more. So I think there's so many different pressures on businesses today. And of course, the economic pressures are one, but we all have to address all of these pressures at the same time.
Yeah.
We can't.
Yeah, we don't have the luxury of choice, do we?
We really
like
don't.
Picking and choosing.
Yes, it is an emergency now, right? So if we can provide something better and we can keep everyone on their toes and customers keep demanding, that is what creates change, right? It's such a great force. Anything that you fear is usually good for you. You just have to dive into it, and you realize on the other side that it's actually fantastic to embrace something new and improve rather than sticking with the status quo and being afraid of what's happening.
Oh, that's so brilliant. I think we've pretty much run out of time now, but Marcia, thank you so much. That's just been brilliant. I've certainly learnt a lot, and I've just really enjoyed the opportunity to find more about Beauty Pie and how it works, but also to get some of these insights from you, because for many of us in the industry, you've been an absolute icon. You've been such a passionate pioneer for really revolutionising the beauty industry. So thank you so much. Well, listen, thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I hope you found that as interesting as I have. It's been the official launch of our Beauty Futures report, and we're going to be following up by sharing that report with you, and you'll get your own version of the report, which will arrive digitally very soon. And if you'd like to find out more about Beauty Pie, of course, visit beautypie.com. Thanks so much for being with us today. Thank you.